Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I'm Qatar, and I'm all about making real estate simple, stress-free, and I dare say actually fun. So today I've got a topic that's perfect for all your commercial owners or those who are thinking about jumping into that world. We're talking about something that sounds pretty basic on the surface level, but honestly makes a huge difference to your bottom line, and that's how to attract awesome tenants for your commercial property. And when I say awesome, I mean the kind of tenants that pay on time, treat the place with respect, and ideally stick around for years because they love being in your space. Yeah, those tenants, we all want them, but the real question is, how do we find them? So today we're going to walk through the whole process. I'm talking tenant screening, lease incentive, marketing, building improvements, relationship management, you name it, I'm covering it. So let's get comfy and get into it. Now, to begin, let's ask the basic question: who is your ideal tenant? Okay, and before we even talk about attracting tenants, you need to figure out who you are trying to attract. I know that sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many landlords list a commercial space without having a clue who they actually want in there. And then they wonder why the space sits vacant for months and why they end up with tenants that just don't fit. So let me ask you this question: who is your ideal tenant? Let's say you've got a retail shop. Is it perfect for a coffee shop, maybe a boutique clothing store, or maybe you've got an office space? Are you thinking about accounting firms, marketing firms, or maybe even a wellness clinic? You've got to look at your location, the size, the layout of your space, the zoning, and honestly, just what makes sense in your neighborhood. For example, if your building is near a hospital or a medical center, it's probably a good idea to target the healthcare related businesses like physiotherapists, dental office, pharmacies. If you're in a trendy foot traffic with heavy foot traffic downtown area, you're probably better off aiming for restaurants or specialty retail or co-working spaces. So yeah, take a bit of time to really think about, and because knowing who you want helps you tailor your marketing, your lease terms, even the upgrades, and it just makes the whole process smoother. Another thing I like to talk about is to make your property irresistible. So now that you know who wants in, the question is, how do you make your property the one they want? And let's be real, tenants have options, and they're not gonna pick a place that feels meh. I mean, you gotta make the property pop out, not in a gimmicky way, but in a way that says, hey, this place is well cared for, functional, and perfect for your business. Let's break it down. Curb appeal. This really matters. Even for commercial properties, the first impression counts big time. If it's outside, if your outside of the building looks tired, run down, and you're already losing points, so what can you do? Honestly, if you don't have to be fancy. Just a basic fresh coat of paint, clean windows, some basic landscaping, like even just trimming the bushes and sweeping the sidewalk and clear signage and a uh, big tenant sign that people can put their business on to advertise it, which looks professional. And yes, lighting. Good exterior lighting is always a must. It makes the building feel safer and just more inviting overall. Now, if we look on the inside and just focus on the essentials, you don't need to do a massive renovation, but there are key areas you should focus on. So let's talk HVAC or HVAC. If it's too hot in the summer or freezing in the winter, that's a deal breaker for a lot of tenants. So make sure your heating and cooling systems are solid. Next up, the internet. High-speed internet is an optional. If your building is in a dead zone and has outdated wiring, tenants are going to move on. And so, yeah, this is worth investing in. think about common areas like restrooms, hallways, entry lobbies. These don't need to be like luxury hotel level, but they should feel like clean, functional, and not feel like they were stuck in the 1980s. And lighting, again, interior lighting matters. Natural light is awesome, but even artificial light that's bright and modern can totally change the feel of a space. Oh, and one more thing. If you can offer flexible layouts, um, you've got an edge. Some tenants want an open concept, other needs private office or storage. So if you can show them how the space can be customized to suit their needs, you're instantly more appealing. Another thing to look out is marketing, basically getting the word out the right way. So now your property is looking sharp. Next step is marketing. And because let's face it, even the most amazing spaces won't get leased if no one knows it's available. So let's talk how to market smart. Professional photos and videos, no more grainy phone pics. And I cannot stress this enough. I see a lot of times realtors would just take in pictures and put it up there, which is fine, but they do not come off as professional. So if you can just spend a little bit of money to get a professional photographer, that place looks far more appealing and you have a much higher response of people coming through it. Um, and you have to treat it as a business. So, you know, people buy what they see. Here's a pro take. Again, like I said, take quality pictures and also do a short video tour. That can be really helpful because, again, if it's a room or let's say 1,000 square foot shop that you want to lease, people would still like to see, but not everyone wants to go all the way there and then say no. So it's better to have like a video of from going from outside to the inside of the unit, and that way you can showcase what the place feels like. And that's one thing that I like to suggest a lot of my clients do that. Another thing that you can do is 3D virtual tours. If the space is really large and has cool features, you should consider that. Now, because most potential tenants are browsing online, and if your listing doesn't stand out visually, they'll scroll right past it. So, where do you list? Now, this is a very big question. Everyone says just MLS, but I would say post it everywhere as possible. I mean, you've got so many platforms like LoopNet, Spacelist, CoStar, and even local business directories. Heck, I would suggest even go and post it on Facebook or Craigslist if it helps you. But just don't sleep on one specific place, because the more you get the property out there, the more chances of it getting noticed by other people increases your odds of leasing out the place. And of course, a good old fashioned lease sign out front of the property, it works. Just make sure your contacts and big info and people can contact you. Another thing to consider is getting a leasing agent. Like they know what they're doing. If this is your first time, or if your property has been sitting empty, or you have better things to do in life or business rather than just answering phone calls and people asking, is it available? It might be worth working with an agent or a commercial leasing agent. Yes, they take a cut, but they also know how to price your space, when to market it, and most importantly, how to close a deal with solid tenants. Vacancy is what costs you money every month. So, yeah, sometimes paying a pro to fill it up faster is worth every penny. And I can attest to it because a lot of times, if you just have a standalone shop, okay, and you can go and do whatever you want depending on what the bylaws allow. But if you were a landlord who has a small plaza and there are a few other shops, and then you have non compete agreements with other tenants, then having someone come in and then say, oh, I want to do this, and then you realize this is actually infringing on non-competition clause that was invoked by another tenant can be very time consuming. So just to avoid all these hassles, it's better off to work with an agent. Now, there's one more thing that people often overlook, and it's called leasing incentives. Because let's be honest, sometimes a little extra nudge can help you close the deal, especially if you're trying to land a top-notch tenant. So let's discuss it in a few ways to how to make it happen. The first one is tenant improvement allowance, also known as TA. This is basically you giving money to the tenant to help them build out the place, however they want it. So, for example, let's say there's a coffee shop wants to install counters, seatings, and special plumbing. You could offer, let's say, 15 to 20 bucks a square foot to offset their cost. And here's the catch: you just don't hand out the cash. Tie it to longer lease, like 5 years, or ideally reimburse them after the work is done and then they provide receipts. Another option is free rent period. This is super common, offering 1 to 3 months of free rent at the start to help them get settled, especially if they are a new business. Or you could do a staggered rent, like lower rent in the first year and then increasing in year 2 and 3. It helps tenants feel like they're not getting slammed with upfront costs, and for you, it's a good trade off for securing a stable lease. And finally, flexible leasing terms. Some tenants want a short term flexibility, others want a long term security. So, if you're aiming for stability, offer better incentives for longer leases. But stay open minded. If a short term lease could lead to something bigger down the road, that's great. Tenant screening. Always, 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 if you've got someone interested, this is exciting, but also where you need to pause and do your due diligence. Because honestly, it's better to have a place empty longer than to get stuck with a tenant who does not pay. Trashes the place, creates legal headaches, and I cannot stress this enough. The whole point of commercial real estate is that you don't want to go to courts. I mean, regardless of if you're going to win or not, or again, usually landlords do have a lot of rights and powers over their tenants, but the fact that you still have to go to court and waste your time is not good. And you can do a few things like, ask the tenant for a credit report, see if they have any debt payments or any red flags or, some bad remarks. One more thing you can do is look for their business financials, like ask them to give them their P&L account, balance sheets, that sort of thing. References, now their past landlords or lenders, you can ask them for what this kind of person is when it comes to paying on time. And of course, there's something called as a business plan. Like if you're a new business, you want to see what is their thought process, what are they thinking, and if they have that something like this in writing, it gives you a bit of an idea. And honestly, at the end, I would also say trust your gut a bit, because if someone seems sketchy, doesn't want to provide you or information or pressure you to sign fast, maybe just step back. Make sure you consult a lawyer. Commercial leases have more flexibility than residential, but they also come with more responsibility. So make sure you've got a solid lease and honestly have a lawyer look over it. Just one of those areas where spending a little bit now can save you big later. So let's fast forward. You've got a great tenant in there. Now, how do you keep them happy so that they stay? First, be responsive. Like stuff is going to break, things are going to happen, and how you respond to them sets the tone. If you're slow at fixing things or hard to reach, tenants notice that and they remember when it comes time to renew. So be on top of maintenance, communicate clearly, and respect their business. Don't schedule noisy repairs during their peak hours, for example, and also check in every now and then. Just checking in, how you doing, how things going, if anything needs to be done, what's working, what's not. These things matter. Sometimes small changes like better lighting fixtures or improved signage can also make them feel valued and help them succeed. And yeah, show appreciation. Maybe it's a small gift on the holidays or offering them a first tips on another space if you're leasing. Little things go a long way in building long term loyalty. And finally, we're almost at the end of this video. Let's face it, no tenant stays forever. Yeah, that's just part of the game, but the key is how you handle them and how you set yourself up to bounce back fast. All right, so let's dig into it because nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to be sitting on an empty unit, losing money every month and wondering what went wrong. So here's how to deal with vacancy smartly and proactively before they eat into your profits or your sanity. I would say start early, like way before the lease. Like here's a move. So as soon as the tenant gives you notice, even better, like 3 to 6 months before the lease ends, start thinking about your next step. I always tell people don't wait until the last moment till the place is empty to start marketing it. Why? Because there's a lag time and that's lost income. Instead, touch base with your tenants. If you have other tenants, ask them if they're planning to renew. Some leases require 60 or 90 days before they end, but don't wait for that long. A friendly, hey, if you're thinking of staying, can give you bits of a heads up. And if they're leaving you, you've got time to prep, freshen up the place, and start marketing it right away. Even better, sometimes a tenant will stay longer month to month if you are nice about it and if you need a bit more time to line up the next renter. Hopefully, that gives you a clear roadmap for attracting great tenants and keeping them long term. Here's what you need to know who you want, make your space shine, market smart, offer thoughtful incentive, screen carefully, build solid relationships, stay proactive with vacancies. And if you got value from this video, hit like and subscribe to get more real estate tips. And drop a comment if you have any questions and stories, good or bad, about commercial leasing. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're in the market looking to lease a space or putting a place up for lease, let's get in touch. Thank you for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next one.